The first warning came long before the human girl arrived. Deep inside the Galactic Union archives, a red file flashed across hundreds of military and scientific databases. Planet, Earth status, Class 12 Deathworld caution, direct contact not recommended. Most worlds earned a Deathworld rating because of dangerous weather or deadly animals. Earth had earned it for everything. Its gravity crushed weaker bodies. Its oceans swallowed entire cities. Its storms erased forests. Its diseases changed every year. Its predators hunted without mercy. And somehow, the dominant species had survived it all. Not only survived, they ruled it. When the Union finally opened diplomatic relations with Earth, every government expected a giant warrior race. Creatures covered in armor. Massive muscles. Sharp claws. Poison. Something terrifying. Instead, a shuttle door opened. One young woman stepped outside. She carried one backpack. One small travel case. Nothing else. She wasn't tall. She wasn't heavy. She didn't even look dangerous. Dark hair tied neatly behind her head. Calm brown eyes. A simple gray academy uniform. She walked without confidence, but without fear. Her name was Kira Vasquez. The first human student ever accepted into the Galactic Union Academy. Hundreds of alien students stopped whatever they were doing. Some whispered. Some laughed. Some simply stared. That's a human? It looks so small. I thought Deathworld creatures were monsters. Maybe Earth exaggerated its reports. Kira heard every word. She answered none of them. She simply continued walking. Every step was slow. Every movement controlled. Like someone who never wasted energy. The academy was larger than anything Kira had imagined. Glass bridges crossed enormous halls. Floating gardens hung between towers. Students from hundreds of species moved everywhere. Some floated instead of walking. Others crawled across walls. Several communicated only through changing colors. It felt less like a school, and more like an entire galaxy living under one roof. An instructor greeted her near the entrance. Welcome to Ilithara Prime, Miss Vasquez. Kira gave a small nod. Thank you. You are our first human student. I know. If you require anything, I'll ask. Short answers. Polite. Nothing more. The instructor watched her leave. Interesting. He whispered. During orientation, every new student introduced themselves. One described the crystal oceans of his home. Another proudly explained how her species could survive in lava. Others laughed, joked, and tried making new friends. Finally, Kira Vasquez. Earth. Everyone looked at her. She stood quietly. No speech. No stories. No dramatic introduction. Only 4 words. My name is Kira. I'm from Earth. Then she sat down. The silence felt awkward. Even the instructor blinked. That's all? Yes. The room remained quiet before the next student hurried to speak. By the end of the first day, most students had already forgotten the human. She wasn't loud. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She never interrupted class. Never argued. Never showed excitement. She listened. Observed. Remembered. It was almost as if she had trained herself to disappear. Not everyone ignored her. One pair of eyes followed Kira everywhere. Large. Cold. Confident. Rilthos. The strongest student in the academy. Nearly 3 meters tall. Covered in dark green scales. Every step he took shook the floor. His family controlled trade routes across several systems. Teachers tolerated him. Students feared him. Bullies usually wanted attention. Rilthos wanted control. There was a difference. Whenever he entered a room, conversation stopped. Whenever someone looked nervous, he smiled. Fear entertained him. Lunch on the 3rd day was unusually crowded. Kira sat alone in a quiet corner. Instead of academy food, she opened a small metal container. Inside was homemade Earth food. Rice. Chicken. Spicy vegetables. The smell spread across the dining hall. Several aliens immediately covered their noses. What is that smell? It burns. Is that food? Kira calmly continued eating. For her, it smelled like home. For everyone else, it smelled like a chemical attack. Heavy footsteps echoed through the hall. Boom, boom, boom. Rilthos. His followers laughed before he even spoke. He stopped beside Kira's table, looked down at her, then smiled. So, this tiny creature represents a Deathworld. More laughter. I expected something bigger. He leaned closer. I've seen children stronger than you. Kira slowly looked up. She didn't seem angry. She simply studied him. His height. His claws. His balance. The way he stood. His breathing. Everything. Less than 1 second. Then she returned to eating. As if he no longer existed. The laughter suddenly became quieter. Rilthos frowned. Nobody ignored him. Nobody. He slammed one claw onto the table. The surface cracked instantly. Students gasped. Kira calmly picked up another bite of food. Still eating. One student whispered, "Why didn't she react?" Another answered, "Maybe humans don't understand insults." An older student quietly replied, "No. I think she understood perfectly." That evening, Kira visited the academy library. Unlike the noisy hallways, the library was peaceful. Rows of glowing books floated through the air. Soft lights reflected across glass walls. Almost nobody spoke. Near the back, she noticed someone sitting alone. A tiny winged student. Her transparent wings were damaged. One side was cracked. She struggled to hold a data tablet because her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Other students walked past, pretending she wasn't there. Kira quietly sat across from her. The small alien looked surprised. You're the human." Kira nodded once. "Yes. I'm Tilly." "Kira." Silence returned. After several moments, Tilly whispered, "You shouldn't sit here." "Why?" "People who stay near me usually become targets." Kira looked back at her book, then answered softly, "I've been a target before." Nothing else. Just one sentence. But somehow, those 5 words carried years of experience. Tilly stared at her. She wanted to ask more. She didn't. For the next hour, neither of them spoke. Sometimes, silence creates friendships words never could. Late that night, Instructor Morvin remained awake inside his office. One question refused to leave his mind. Why would a Deathworld send someone so quiet? He opened Earth's classified report. The numbers appeared. Gravity, nearly twice the galactic average. Oxygen, far higher than most inhabited planets. Wildlife, extreme. Predator density, off the charts. Environmental danger, critical. Morvin slowly leaned back. He had studied hundreds of civilizations. None of them came from conditions this brutal. Yet humans had not only survived. They had built cities, governments, technology, spaceflight. One line caught his attention. Human psychological evaluation. Highly social. Highly adaptable. Capable of extreme restraint. Never mistake restraint for inability. Morvin read that sentence again. And again. A strange feeling settled in his chest. Perhaps, the most dangerous thing about humans wasn't their strength. It was their patience. Meanwhile, inside her small room, the next morning, nothing looked different. The academy was as busy as always. Students hurried through the massive halls. Floating drones carried books from one classroom to another. Different species talked in dozens of languages at once. Everything seemed normal. But rumors were spreading faster than ever. The human had ignored Rilthos. Nobody had ever done that before. Some students believed she was simply too scared to answer. Others thought she was incredibly foolish. Only a few wondered if there was another reason. Kira didn't care what anyone believed. She followed the same routine. Wake up. Train quietly inside her room. Take a cold shower. Eat breakfast. Attend every class. Speak only when necessary. She lived like a machine built around discipline. During advanced xenobiology class, Professor Sailran projected hundreds of planets above the classroom. Today's lesson was simple. Deathworld evolution. Immediately, every student became interested. The professor pointed toward a glowing red planet. This world produces creatures with natural armor. Another hologram appeared. This one evolved venom powerful enough to stop a creature 10 times its size. Then another. And here, gravity is strong enough to crush most civilized species. The professor paused. Finally, a blue planet slowly rotated above the classroom. Earth. Several students immediately turned toward Kira. Professor Sailran smiled politely. Miss Vasquez, perhaps you would like to explain your world's survival methods. The room became completely silent. Kira looked at the floating image for a few seconds. Then she stood. My world is dangerous. Everyone nodded. She continued. But the animals are not our biggest problem. The professor looked interested. What is? Kira answered calmly. Nature never stops trying to kill us. Some students laughed. They thought she was joking. She wasn't. We grow up knowing storms can destroy our homes. We know rivers can drown us. We know mountains can bury us. We know tiny insects can spread diseases. We know food can disappear. We know fire can save us or kill us. She looked around the classroom. So humans learn one lesson very early. Professor Sailran leaned forward. What lesson? Kira answered with the same calm voice. Adapt. If one way fails, find another. If you fall, stand up. If something stronger attacks, think. The classroom stayed silent. No dramatic speech. No pride. She spoke as if describing ordinary weather. Professor Sailran slowly nodded. I see. But inside, he did not. Outside the classroom, Tilly caught up with Kira. You surprised everyone. I answered a question. You scared them. I wasn't trying to. Tilly smiled. I know. For the first time, Kira smiled back. Only a little. Barely noticeable. But it was real. High above the academy, Instructor Morvin watched security recordings. Again. And again. Not because of Rilthos. Because of Kira. Every camera showed the same thing. Perfect posture. Controlled breathing. No wasted movement. Even while walking, she seemed aware of everything around her. Morvin slowed one recording. Kira turned a corner. Exactly 1 second before another student accidentally dropped several heavy containers. She shouldn't have known. The containers hadn't even fallen yet. Yet, she had already stepped aside. The boxes crashed exactly where she would have been. Morvin frowned. Prediction. No. Awareness. He opened Earth's classified file once again. One line caught his attention. Human nervous system response time, exceptional. Another line. Pattern recognition exceeds union average by a significant margin. Morvin slowly closed the file. They didn't send us an ordinary student. He whispered. They sent us someone trained by Earth itself. Meanwhile, Rilthos wasn't laughing anymore. His followers noticed it first. He had become obsessed. Every day he watched Kira. Every day she ignored him. It felt like losing. And Rilthos hated losing. One afternoon he stopped 3 students in the hallway. You. What do humans eat? The students looked confused. I don't know. Find out. Another student hesitated. Why? Rilthos stepped closer. Because I asked. Within hours, half the academy had started searching for information about Earth. Most records were locked. But some public reports remained. The first report mentioned gravity. The second listed dangerous wildlife. The third showed photographs of Earth's oceans during a hurricane. Students stared at waves taller than buildings. Someone whispered, "People actually live there." Another report displayed volcanoes, wildfires, blizzards, deserts, floods. Earth looked less like a home, more like a battlefield. Later that evening, Tilly and Kira walked through the botanical gardens. Artificial sunlight poured through the glass ceiling. Alien flowers released glowing pollen into the air. It was peaceful. Too peaceful. Tilly finally asked the question she had been holding back. "Kira, were you really never afraid of Rilthos?" Kira thought for a moment. "I respect danger. That's different from fear." Tilly looked confused. "What does that mean?" Kira stopped walking. "When you grow up on Earth, you don't panic every time something dangerous appears." You learn. You observe. You wait. And only then, you move. Tilly slowly nodded. She wasn't sure she fully understood. But somehow, those words felt important. Across the academy, Rilthos watched them from a balcony. His claws dug into the metal railing. "She's making friends." One of his followers nodded. "What should we do?" Rilthos smiled. A cruel smile. "Break the friendship." The opportunity came sooner than expected. The following afternoon, Tilly carried several fragile crystal data cores toward the science building. The corridor was crowded. Students moved in every direction. Suddenly, someone stepped into her path. Rilthos. He didn't move. Neither did his followers. Tilly froze. Excuse me." Rilthos looked down at her. "No." His massive tail slowly swept behind him. One quick movement. Crack! The crystal cases shattered across the floor. Tilly stumbled backward. One sharp fragment sliced across her damaged wing. She cried out in pain. Students stopped walking. Nobody helped. Nobody spoke. Everyone knew better than to interfere. At the far end of the hallway, Kira heard the sound. She slowly looked up. Her eyes found Tilly. Then, Rilthos. Everything around her seemed to disappear. The conversations. The footsteps. The noise. Gone. She walked forward. Not fast. Not angry. Just focused. Students instinctively stepped out of her way. No one knew why. Something about her calm expression felt different. Dangerously different. Rilthos laughed. "What? You finally decided to speak?" Kira stopped 3 meters away. She looked at Tilly's bleeding wing. Then back at Rilthos. Her voice remained perfectly calm. "Pick up the crystals." The hallway fell silent. Rilthos blinked. "What? You broke them?" "You'll pick them up." Several students gasped. Nobody had ever spoken to Rilthos like that. For a brief second, Rilthos actually hesitated. Then he burst into laughter. His followers joined him. "You think you're giving me orders?" Kira didn't answer. She simply continued staring at him. Without blinking. Without moving. Without fear. For reasons Rilthos couldn't explain. A strange feeling crept into his chest. It lasted only a second. But it was enough. Enough to make him angry. Very angry. He stepped closer. Towering over the human. "You'll regret talking to me." Kira finally spoke. "No. You will." She turned her back. Knelt beside Tilly. Carefully helped her stand. Then together, they walked away. Neither of them looked back. Behind them, Rilthos remained standing in the middle of the corridor. For the first time in years. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't laughing. He was furious. Because deep inside, something told him, the quiet human wasn't afraid of him. And that thought terrified him more than he would ever admit. The hallway remained silent. Nobody moved. Broken crystal fragments glittered across the floor. A small trail of blue blood marked where Tilly had been injured. And in the middle of it all, Rilthos stood perfectly still. His followers looked at him nervously. One finally spoke. "Leader?" Rilthos didn't answer. His eyes remained fixed on the empty corridor where Kira had disappeared. Nobody had ever walked away from him like that. Nobody had ever looked into his eyes. And refused to be intimidated. Slowly, his claws curled into fists. "Find out everything." His followers exchanged confused looks. "About the human?" "Everything. Where she trains. Who she talks to. What she eats. When she sleeps. I want every detail." The students quickly scattered. For the first time, Rilthos wasn't looking for revenge. He was looking for answers. Because instincts older than memory were whispering inside his mind. Something wasn't right. Something about that quiet human felt wrong. Meanwhile, inside the Academy medical wing, bright white lights filled the room. Small medical drones floated through the air. Soft machines quietly repaired damaged tissue. Tilly sat on one of the examination beds while a healing scanner passed over her injured wing. The cut wasn't deep, but it still hurt. Kira stood nearby without saying a word. The room stayed quiet for several minutes. Finally, Tilly smiled weakly. "You didn't have to do that." Kira looked at her. "Yes. I did." "You could have ignored it." "No." "Why?" Kira answered immediately. "Because you are my friend." Tilly blinked. Friend. Such a simple word. Yet hearing it from Kira somehow felt important. Very important. She lowered her eyes. "No one's ever stood up for me before." Kira remained silent. Then she spoke softly. "My father taught me something." Tilly looked up. "What?" "If you are strong, you protect. Strength without responsibility becomes cruelty." The words settled into the quiet room. Even one of the nearby medical drones paused for a brief moment before continuing its work. Tilly smiled. "I think I understand humans a little better now." Kira gave a small nod. "Most species don't." Far above the academy, inside the Security Observation Center, Instructor Morvin She had looked calm, controlled, disciplined. But the instant she saw Tilly bleeding, something ancient woke inside her. Not rage, not panic, protective instinct. Morvin quietly leaned back. "I've seen that before." He searched old military archives. Several classified reports appeared. Earth Expeditionary Forces. Psychological evaluation. Combat behavior. One sentence stood out. Humans display extraordinary protective aggression toward members of their perceived group. Another followed. Threatening a human is dangerous. Threatening someone under a human's protection is significantly worse. Morvin read the line twice. Then a third time. He slowly looked toward the academy outside his window. What exactly did Earth send us? At the same time, deep beneath the academy, far below the classrooms, far below the gardens, hidden elevators carried only authorized personnel. 3 security doors opened one after another. Behind the final door, Commander Varesh waited. He wasn't a teacher. He wasn't part of the academy. Officially, he didn't exist. His office contained no decorations. Only screens, reports, and classified files. One screen suddenly lit up. Priority message. Subject, human student Kira Vasquez. Commander Varesh opened the report. Security incident. Hallway confrontation. Subject displayed complete emotional control. Subject successfully de-escalated situation without physical violence. Possible intimidation effect observed. Commander Varesh frowned. Interesting. Another file automatically opened. Earth intelligence package. Clearance level, restricted. He entered his authorization code. Most of the file remained locked. Only a few lines became visible. Species classification. Humanity. Deathworld origin. Psychological profile. Highly cooperative. Extremely adaptable. Capable of prolonged endurance. Protective social instincts exceed union norms. Final warning. Never mistake calmness for weakness. Commander Varesh quietly closed the file. He had worked with dozens of species. Warriors. Hunters. Predators. None had required a warning written like that. The next morning, life at the academy continued. At least, it tried to. Students still attended lectures. Training continued. The cafeteria remained crowded. But conversations had changed. Nobody talked about exams. Nobody discussed assignments. Everyone talked about one thing. The human. Did you hear what happened? She ordered Rilthos to clean the floor. They say he almost attacked. No. They say he stepped back. Impossible. I saw it. Rumors grew larger every hour. Some became ridiculous. Others strangely accurate. By lunchtime, half the academy believed humans never felt fear. The other half believed they were secretly soldiers. Neither group knew the truth. Kira entered the cafeteria carrying a simple meal. Grilled vegetables. Protein strips. Water. Nothing unusual. As always, she chose a quiet table near the window. Several students noticed. None approached. Not because they hated her. Because they didn't know what to think anymore. Tilly arrived a few moments later. Mind if I sit? You never have to ask. Tilly smiled. As they ate, she noticed something strange. Every few minutes, Kira casually glanced around the room. Never long. Never obvious. Just quick observations. Door. Window. Crowd. Exit. Ceiling. Back again. Tilly tilted her head. Are you looking for someone? No. Then why? Kira took another sip of water. Habit. What kind of habit? My mother called it knowing the room. You always know where people are. You always know where the exits are. You always know what changed. Tilly looked around the cafeteria. I've never even thought about doing that. Kira smiled faintly. On Earth. You learn. Sometimes. It saves lives. Before Tilly could ask another question, a tray suddenly slipped from a nearby table. A heavy metal cup flew through the air. Without even looking, Kira raised one hand. The cup landed perfectly in her palm. Not a single drop spilled. The cafeteria fell silent again. Kira simply placed the cup back on the student's tray. There you go. The shocked student whispered. Thank you. She returned to her meal, as if nothing unusual had happened. But throughout the cafeteria, dozens of students stared. Because none of them had even seen the cup coming. The human had. Without turning her head. Without panic. Without effort. And somewhere across the room, hidden behind a support pillar, Rilthos watched everything. His expression didn't change. But inside, the questions were becoming impossible to ignore. Who? Was Kira Vasquez? And why did every answer seem more frightening than the last? That evening, rain fell against the academy's enormous glass dome. Thousands of tiny drops slid across the transparent ceiling. Inside, students continued moving through the brightly lit corridors. Outside, dark clouds covered the stars. Kira stood alone on one of the observation balconies. She watched the rain quietly. It reminded her of home. Not because it looked the same, but because storms always made her think. Footsteps approached behind her. Tilly. You've been standing here for almost an hour. Kira smiled faintly. I like the quiet. Tilly heard it. The left stabilizer is slightly damaged. It makes a different sound. Tilly blinked. You can tell that. Kira nodded. It isn't difficult. For Tilly, it seemed impossible. Elsewhere, Instructor Morvin received another report. Subject detected surveillance drone without visual contact. He slowly removed his glasses. This is becoming ridiculous. He ordered the Academy AI to compare Kira's reactions with every known species in Union records. Processing began. Minutes passed. Finally, the result appeared. Closest match found. None. Reaction speed. Above Union average. Environmental awareness. Above Union average. Threat recognition. No comparable data. Morvin sighed. So Earth wasn't exaggerating. Across the Academy, Rilthos sat alone inside the combat arena. The massive room was empty. Training robots stood motionless along the walls. His followers entered carefully. We found information. Rilthos looked up. Talk. The human wakes before sunrise. She trains every morning. She rarely uses the elevators. She always chooses the stairs. She eats almost the same meals every day. Another student added. She also reads military history. Rilthos narrowed his eyes. Military? Only old Earth history. Another hesitation. There is something else. What? We can't access most human records. They are classified. Rilthos slammed one fist into the training platform. The reinforced floor cracked. Classified. He hated unanswered questions. He wanted facts. Not rumors. Then one follower spoke quietly. There is one person who might know more. Who? Professor Sailran. The following morning, Professor Sailran entered his office carrying several research tablets. Before he reached his desk, someone blocked the doorway. Rilthos. The professor sighed. I expected this. You know something about humans. I know many things. I want answers. Professor Sailran studied the young warrior for several seconds. Then closed the office door. What exactly do you want to know? Rilthos folded his arms. Why isn't she afraid? The professor remained silent. Finally, he walked toward a locked cabinet. Inside rested an old data crystal. One he had not opened in many years. He inserted it into the projector. A recording appeared. The date. Nearly 100 years earlier. An exploration vessel floated above an unfamiliar planet. Earth. The recording continued. A calm narrator spoke. First Contact Survey 7. Mission objective, evaluate emerging species. The video showed humans rescuing survivors after a massive earthquake. Then, fighting enormous forest fires. Then, crossing frozen mountains during a blizzard. Next, medical teams entering a city filled with deadly disease. The narrator continued. Humans repeatedly enter environments that other species classify as unsurvivable. Another scene appeared. Rescue workers running toward collapsing buildings. Not away. Toward them. Rilthos frowned. Why? Professor Sailran answered softly. Because someone was still inside. The next recording showed soldiers protecting civilians during overwhelming attacks. Some never returned. Yet others immediately took their place. Again, the narrator spoke. Human civilization demonstrates unusually high voluntary self-sacrifice for unrelated individuals. The recording ended. Silence filled the office. Rilthos looked confused. This makes no sense. Professor Sailran nodded. I know. Why would anyone risk their own life for strangers? The professor smiled sadly. That is the question every researcher asked. And? No one has completely answered it. Outside, Kira finished another morning training session. Her breathing remained steady. Not because the exercises were easy. Because she had practiced them for years. As she packed her equipment, she noticed movement. A small alien child stood near the doorway. Perhaps 7 years old. The child looked frightened. A practice drone hovered nearby. Its navigation system had malfunctioned. It moved unpredictably. Each sudden movement made the child step farther back. Kira slowly walked over. It's okay. The child looked at her nervously. I'm scared. I know. Kira crouched until they were at the same height. Watch. She picked up a small training ball. Without rushing, she tossed it gently past the drone. The damaged machine immediately followed the moving object, leaving the doorway clear. There. The child smiled. You tricked it. Kira smiled back. No. I redirected it. The child laughed before running happily down the hallway. Hidden above, a maintenance camera recorded everything. Morvin watched the footage moments later. Again, the human had solved a problem. Without violence. Without showing off. Simply by thinking. That afternoon, the academy buzzed with excitement. An announcement echoed through every corridor. Attention all students. Tomorrow's survival assessment will begin at 0800 hours. Attendance is mandatory. Instantly, conversations erupted. The survival assessment. Every student dreaded it. The simulation changed every year. No one knew what challenges awaited. Some failed. Some quit. Only a handful earned perfect scores. Tilly's face turned pale. Oh no. Kira looked at her. What? I hate survival tests. Why? They are impossible. Kira adjusted the strap on her training bag. They are designed to teach. Tilly shook her head. They are designed to make us panic. Kira answered quietly. Then don't panic. Tilly stared at her. You make everything sound so simple. Kira smiled. Usually. It is. Across the courtyard, Rilthos overheard every word. A slow smile spread across his face. Finally, an opportunity. A survival assessment meant competition. Pressure. Stress. Fear. He was certain. Sooner or later, the quiet human would make a mistake. And when she did, the entire academy would see she was no different from everyone else. High above the academy, far beyond the clouds, a silent observation satellite rotated through space. Its sensors briefly locked onto the academy below. A secure transmission flashed across the screen. Subject, Kira Vasquez. Status, maintaining cover. Psychological profile unchanged. Then, a second message appeared. One marked with the highest level of Earth security. Warning. Multiple Union officials have begun investigating human biological records. Probability of classified information leak, increasing. The satellite transmitted one final encrypted burst toward deep space. Thousands of light years away. Someone received it. A single response came back only seconds later. It contained just 6 words. Continue observation. Do not interfere, yet. The message vanished. The satellite returned to silence. Below, the academy prepared for tomorrow's test. None of the students realized the survival assessment would not only test their skills. It would expose something far more dangerous. For the first time, the galaxy was about to witness what a human considered A normal day, the academy woke earlier than usual. Before sunrise, every corridor was already filled with students. Nobody laughed. Nobody talked loudly. Even the loudest species remained unusually quiet. Today was different. Today was the survival assessment. The test happened only once every academic cycle. No one knew exactly what it would contain. The academy changed it every year. That uncertainty was part of the challenge. Students from dozens of worlds gathered inside the massive central arena. The circular chamber stretched so high that its ceiling disappeared into darkness. Thousands of observation seats surrounded the arena. Teachers, researchers, military officers, even officials from the Galactic Union had arrived to watch. Professor Sailran adjusted his glasses. This year's class is interesting. Instructor Morvin stood beside him. I think we're about to learn much more than the students. Far below, the students waited in complete silence. Kira stood near the back of the group, hands behind her back, breathing slow, eyes moving calmly across the room. Door, observation balcony, emergency exits, security drones, medical teams. Nothing escaped her attention. Beside her, Tilly looked terrified. I hate this already. Kira glanced at her. You've survived every difficult day before this one. Tilly sighed. Barely. Kira gave a faint smile. That still counts. A loud tone echoed through the arena. The academy director stepped onto the central platform. He was old. Very old. His silver scales reflected the bright lights above. His voice carried across the entire chamber. Welcome. Today's examination measures more than intelligence. It measures judgment. It measures discipline. And above all, it measures survival. The lights dimmed. A giant hologram appeared above the arena. It displayed a dense alien jungle. Mountains, rivers, storm clouds. Strange creatures moved beneath enormous trees. The director continued. You will be divided into teams. Each team will enter a simulated environment. You must survive. You must locate the extraction beacon. You must protect your teammates. If one member fails, the entire team loses. Students exchanged nervous looks. Then the director smiled. There are no perfect plans. Only better decisions. Names began appearing above the arena. Students quickly searched for their assigned teams. Tilly looked up. Oh no! Kira followed her eyes. Team 7. Kira Vasquez. Tilly. Rilthos. 3 other students. Silence. Then whispers spread through the arena. They're on the same team. That's impossible. Who made those teams? Rilthos slowly smiled. His sharp teeth glimmered. It seems fate has a sense of humor. Kira simply nodded. We're teammates. For now. Rilthos chuckled. We'll see how long that lasts. Inside the observation deck, Professor Sailran frowned. Who approved these assignments? Morvin checked the roster. I did. Sailran looked surprised. You placed them together? Yes. Why? Morvin never looked away from the arena. Because pressure reveals truth. The arena floor began to glow. Blue energy surrounded each team. A computerized voice echoed through the chamber. Simulation beginning. 3, 2, 1. Light swallowed everything. Kira opened her eyes. The academy had vanished. She stood inside an enormous forest. Towering trees stretched hundreds of meters into the sky. Bright blue vines wrapped around gigantic trunks. Unknown insects buzzed through the humid air. A river roared somewhere nearby. The simulation felt real. Almost too real. Tilly looked around nervously. It even smells real. It is. One of the other students swallowed hard. My scanner says the temperature is rising. Another pointed toward the sky. The storm is moving faster than predicted. Rilthos folded his arms. We're wasting time. We go north. Kira remained silent. She crouched near the ground. Her fingers touched the soil. Then a nearby plant. She looked toward the trees. Then the clouds. Finally, she stood. We're not going north. Rilthos laughed. And why not? The river will flood. Several students looked confused. There isn't even any rain yet. Kira calmly pointed upward. The clouds. The wind. The humidity. The insects have stopped flying. She looked toward the distant river. It'll overflow soon. Rilthos snorted. Ridiculous. Without another word, he began walking north. Two students hesitated. Then followed him. Tilly looked between them and Kira. What do we do? Kira answered quietly. We move to higher ground. But they're going the other way. I know. Tilly trusted her. Without asking another question, she followed. The third remaining teammate hesitated. Finally, he followed Kira too. Inside the observation room, several instructors watched the simulation carefully. Professor Sailran noticed something. The weather system. Morvin nodded. It activates in exactly 4 minutes. Sailran looked toward Team 7. Then, Morvin finished the sentence. She predicted it. 3 minutes later, the first drop of rain fell. Then another. Within seconds, the jungle exploded into a violent storm. Rain crashed through the trees. Lightning illuminated the sky. Powerful winds bent enormous branches. Students across the simulation struggled to remain standing. The river transformed instantly. Its calm waters became a roaring wall of destruction. Far below, Rilthos finally looked back. The narrow valley behind him disappeared beneath rushing water. His eyes widened. What? The flood surged forward. Massive trees snapped like sticks. Several enormous boulders rolled through the current. One of his teammates screamed. It's coming! Run! Meanwhile, Kira's group had already reached the rocky hillside. From above, they watched the flood tear through the valley below. Tilly stared in disbelief. You knew. Kira shook her head. I suspected. How? My grandfather loved hiking. He taught me to watch nature. Nature always leaves clues. The third teammate whispered. Our scanners didn't detect anything. Kira looked toward the storm. Machines measure. Experience notices. Far below, Rilthos jumped onto a fallen tree. The current slammed against it. The log shifted violently. One teammate lost balance. He fell into the raging water. The current dragged him away. Help! Rilthos reached toward him. Too late. The student disappeared beneath the flood. A warning flashed across the simulation. Team member eliminated. The remaining students froze. One mistake. One casualty. The entire team's score dropped instantly. High above, the observation room became unusually quiet. Military officers exchanged looks. One finally spoke. The human read the terrain. Without equipment. Another officer nodded. That's not normal. Morvin answered calmly. No, it isn't. Hours seemed to pass. The storm slowly weakened. The forest became eerily quiet. Bird-like creatures cautiously returned to the trees. Water dripped from every leaf. The simulation updated. Objective remains. Locate extraction beacon. Estimated distance. 20 kilometers. Tilly sighed. We still have that far to go? Kira adjusted her backpack. One step at a time. As the team continued through the forest, Kira suddenly stopped walking. Her head tilted slightly. Tilly noticed immediately. What is it? Kira raised one hand. Everyone froze. Silence. Complete silence. No insects. No birds. No wind. Nothing. Kira whispered. We're not alone. A deep growl echoed through the trees. Branches snapped. Something enormous moved between the shadows. The ground trembled beneath heavy footsteps. The students slowly turned toward the sound. Two glowing golden eyes appeared in the darkness. Then, Another pair. And another. The bushes exploded outward. A pack of giant predators stepped into the clearing. Each creature stood nearly 3 meters tall. Their black armored hides shimmered in the rain. Rows of razor-sharp teeth filled their massive jaws. The simulation identified them instantly. Warning. Apex predators detected. Survival probability, 14%. Tilly's face turned white. One student dropped his scanner. Even Rilthos slowly stepped backward. But Kira didn't move. Her eyes remained locked on the largest predator. Calm. Focused. Watching. Because on Earth, she had learned one rule long ago. Sometimes, running was the worst possible choice. The clearing became completely silent. The predators didn't attack. Not yet. They slowly spread out. One moved to the left. Another circled behind the group. The largest remained directly in front of them. Golden eyes never left Kira. Tilly's breathing became faster. I don't like this. One of the other students raised his energy weapon. My scanner says they are preparing to attack. Should I fire? Before anyone else could answer, Kira spoke. No. The student stared at her. What? Don't raise your weapon. They'll see it as a challenge. Rilthos laughed. That's ridiculous. They are animals. Kira never looked away from the largest predator. Exactly. They don't waste energy. They hunt. They study. They wait. The largest beast took another slow step forward. Its claws dug into the wet ground. The student holding the weapon panicked. They are coming. He fired. A bright bolt of energy struck the ground beside the lead predator. For one heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, the creature roared. The sound shook the entire forest. Every predator charged at once. Inside the observation chamber, warning lights flashed across dozens of monitors. Professor Sailran stood up. They engaged. Morvin remained calm. No. The students engaged. Back inside the simulation, chaos erupted. One predator leaped nearly 10 meters through the air. Another smashed straight through a massive tree. Students scattered in every direction. One screamed. Another dropped his equipment. The frightened student fired again. The energy blast missed. The predator reached him first. Its enormous body slammed him into the ground. A red warning flashed. Team member eliminated. Tilly froze. They are too fast. Another predator rushed toward her. She couldn't move. Fear locked every muscle. Then, Kira moved. Not toward safety. Toward the predator. She grabbed a fallen branch and struck a nearby tree trunk with all her strength. Crack! The sharp sound echoed through the clearing. Every predator instantly turned toward her. Kira shouted. Over here! The beasts changed direction. Now, they were chasing her. Kira! Tilly screamed. What are you doing? Kira didn't answer. She was already running. Not blindly. With purpose. She moved between the trees with incredible precision. Jumping over roots. Sliding beneath fallen branches. Using the forest itself as protection. The predators followed. Fast. Very fast. But something was strange. Kira wasn't trying to outrun them. She was leading them somewhere. High above. Morvin watched every movement. His eyes narrowed. She's herding them. Professor Sailran looked confused. Herding predators? Morvin slowly nodded. Watch. Kira suddenly changed direction. She climbed onto a large rock. Then another. The predators followed. The largest one jumped. Exactly as Kira expected. She leaped sideways. The massive creature landed on the smooth, rain-soaked stone. Its claws slipped. The beast crashed into the predator behind it. Both tumbled down the rocky slope. The rest hesitated. Just enough. Kira kept moving. She reached the edge of a narrow ravine. Without slowing, she jumped. The gap was wide. Too wide for most Academy species. But years of training, countless obstacle courses, and Earth's higher gravity had prepared her. She landed safely. The predators stopped at the edge, growling, unable to reach her. For several long seconds, neither side moved. Then the lead predator gave one final roar. The pack slowly retreated into the forest. Kira watched until they disappeared. Only then, she took a deep breath. Back with the others, Tilly looked as if she had forgotten how to speak. Rilthos stared across the ravine. He couldn't believe what he had seen. The human hadn't defeated the predators. She had outsmarted them. Without firing a single shot. Without panicking. Without wasting movement. She returned several minutes later after finding a safe path around the ravine. Tilly immediately ran toward her. You could have died. Kira shook her head. I didn't plan to. You distracted all of them. They were already focused on us. I simply changed the target. Rilthos finally spoke. Why? Kira looked at him. Because teammates don't leave each other behind. The words hit harder than any punch. Rilthos remembered the student swept away by the flood. He had tried to save him, but only after it was too late. The human had acted first. Without hesitation. Without asking who deserved saving. For the first time, Rilthos felt something unfamiliar. Shame. Inside the observation chamber, no one spoke. Several military officers replayed the recording. Again. And again. One officer finally broke the silence. She analyzed predator behavior. Used sound to redirect the attack. Controlled the terrain. And escaped without unnecessary force. Another officer looked toward Morvin. How old is she? 19. The room became silent once more. 19. Hours passed. The surviving members of Team 7 continued deeper into the simulated wilderness. The forest slowly disappeared. In its place, towering cliffs rose toward the sky. Strong winds howled through the narrow passes. Tilly's legs trembled with exhaustion. I can't. I need a break. Kira looked around. There. A shallow cave rested beneath the cliffs. It'll protect us from the wind. The group settled inside. One student collapsed against the wall. I've never been this tired. Kira quietly opened her backpack. Inside were several emergency food packs. She divided them equally. You planned for this? Tilly asked. I always carry extra. What if you needed it later? Kira smiled. If my team can't continue, neither can I. Rilthos watched silently. Everything she did contradicted everything he believed about strength. He had always thought power meant standing above others. The human seemed to believe real strength meant lifting others up. A soft tone echoed across the simulation. The Academy AI announced. Final objective located. Extraction beacon, 5 kilometers. Hope returned instantly. We're close. Tilly said. The team hurried toward the final checkpoint. After another hour, they reached the highest cliff in the simulation. At its center, a glowing beacon waited. Students from several other teams were already there. Some were injured. Others looked completely exhausted. As Team 7 approached, conversations stopped. Everyone looked at Kira. Word had already spread through the simulation. The human escaped the Razor Pack. Impossible. I saw it happen. No weapons. No armor. Just strategy. Even the instructors observing from above noticed something changing. The students were no longer whispering because Kira was human. They were whispering because she had earned their respect. The beacon activated. Bright blue light filled the sky. A mechanical voice echoed across the entire arena. Survival assessment complete. Light swallowed the mountains. The cliffs disappeared. The wind vanished. Seconds later, everyone stood back inside the Academy arena. Thunderous applause erupted from the observation seats. Not for the highest scores. Not for the strongest fighters. For the quiet human who had remained calm when everyone else had panicked. Professor Sailrand smiled proudly. Morvin folded his arms. They've finally seen it. They thought humans survived because they were stronger. He looked toward Kira. They survive because they never stop thinking. As students began leaving the arena, an emergency alarm suddenly interrupted everything. Red lights flooded the academy. The applause stopped instantly. A cold computerized voice echoed through every hallway. Warning! Warning! Unauthorized life form detected inside academy perimeter. Every instructor froze. Military officers reached for their weapons. Security drones launched from hidden compartments. On the central display, a single image appeared. A gigantic creature, far larger than anything inside the simulation. It had broken through the academy's outer defense wall. And it was heading straight toward the students. Kira looked up at the screen. Her calm expression didn't change. But she whispered 4 words that no one around her understood. This one is real. To be continued, the alarm echoed across the academy. Red emergency lights flashed through every hallway. Students froze where they stood. The celebration was over. Fear spread faster than the warning itself. The giant screen above the arena displayed a live security feed. A massive creature stood outside the academy walls. It was unlike anything the students had ever seen. Its body was covered in black armor-like scales. 6 powerful legs crushed the metal ground beneath it. 2 enormous horns curved backward from its head. Its glowing red eyes scanned everything in front of it. Every breath released clouds of burning vapor. One swipe of its tail smashed an armored defense tower into pieces. The entire arena fell silent. Someone whispered, "What is that?" No one answered. Because no one knew. High above, inside the command center, officers rushed between holographic displays. Reports flooded every screen. Outer defense gate destroyed. Security drones offline. Energy barrier collapsing. Commander Varesh entered the room. Status. An officer swallowed nervously. Unknown life form breached Sector 9. Estimated threat level. He stopped speaking. Commander Varesh looked at him. Say it. The officer took a deep breath. Catastrophic. The room became silent. No academy had ever faced a level catastrophic threat. Not once in its history. Outside, the creature released another earth-shaking roar. The academy walls trembled. Students instinctively stepped backward. Some began running toward the shelters. Others simply stood frozen. Professor Sailran activated the emergency broadcast. All students evacuate immediately. Do not engage the creature. Proceed to the underground shelters. Security drones flooded the sky. Heavy plasma cannons rose from hidden compartments. The Academy's automated defense system activated. Target locked. Fire! Dozens of blue plasma beams slammed into the monster. Explosions shook the battlefield. Smoke covered everything. Several students cheered. We got it! The smoke slowly cleared. The creature was still standing. Not a single wound covered its body. Instead, it looked angry. Very angry. The monster charged. Boom! Its shoulder smashed through the outer wall. Thousands of tons of reinforced alloy exploded inward. Dust filled the air. Students screamed. The academy shook like an earthquake. Emergency sirens became louder. Pieces of the ceiling began falling. One enormous support beam collapsed toward a crowd of frightened students. Nobody reacted fast enough. Except one. Kira. She sprinted forward. Without hesitation. Without fear. Move! The students looked up. Too late. The beam was already falling. Kira threw herself into one terrified student. Both rolled across the floor. The beam crashed exactly where they had been standing. The impact shattered the ground. Dust exploded into the air. The rescued student stared at Kira with wide eyes. You saved me. Kira helped him stand. Can you walk? He nodded. Barely. Then keep moving. She pushed him toward the evacuation route. Nearby, Rilthos watched everything. His heart pounded. He had always believed strength meant defeating enemies. Now, the strongest person he had ever met was risking herself to save strangers. Again. And again. The creature entered the academy courtyard. Every step cracked the stone beneath its feet. Security robots attacked from every direction. The monster tore them apart effortlessly. Metal bodies flew through the air. One damaged robot crashed through the academy windows. Glass rained across the hallway. Students covered their heads. Panic spread. Nobody knew where to run. Morvin grabbed a communication device. Seal every classroom. Protect the civilians. Military units will engage outside. An officer shook his head. They won't arrive in time. Morvin looked toward the courtyard. Then toward Kira. His expression changed. Almost as if he had reached a decision. Kira continued leading frightened students toward the shelters. Suddenly, she stopped. Something felt wrong. She looked behind her. The hallway was empty. Too empty. Then she heard it. Crying. Very faint. Coming from the damaged science wing. Kira closed her eyes. Listened carefully. There. Again. A child. She turned toward the others. You keep going. Tilly grabbed her arm. Where are you going? Someone's still inside. No. The building is collapsing. Kira gently removed Tilly's hand. I know. You could die. Kira smiled softly. I'll be careful. Before anyone could stop her, she ran back toward the damaged wing. Inside, smoke filled the corridors. Emergency lights flickered overhead. Broken pipes sprayed steam across the floor. The academy shook with every step the creature took outside. Kira! Tilly shouted after her. But she was already gone. Kira moved quickly through the smoke. She stayed low. One hand against the wall. Listening. Not looking. Listening. Another crash echoed outside. Dust poured from the ceiling. The crying became louder. This way. She reached a collapsed laboratory. Heavy debris blocked the entrance. Behind it, a small alien child sat trapped beneath a broken support frame. Tears streamed down the child's face. I can't get out. Kira knelt beside the fallen beam. It's okay. I'm here. She tested the weight. Too heavy. Not impossible. She planted her feet. Took one deep breath. Then lifted. The metal groaned. Slowly. Very slowly. The beam rose. The child crawled free. The academy trembled again. The damaged ceiling cracked. Large pieces began falling. Kira grabbed the child. Run! They sprinted through the corridor. Behind them, the laboratory collapsed completely. Outside, the monster roared once more. Military transport ships finally arrived above the academy. Heavy armored soldiers descended using grave boots. Commander Varesh stepped onto the battlefield. Protect the civilians. Do not let that creature reach the shelters. Dozens of soldiers opened fire. Bright streams of plasma filled the sky. The creature barely slowed. It swung one enormous claw. 3 armored vehicles flew through the air like toys. Commander Varesh's expression darkened. This isn't a random beast. It knows what it's doing. Back inside, Kira emerged from the science wing carrying the frightened child. Teachers immediately rushed toward them. Professor Selran's eyes widened. You went back. There was still someone inside. The child hugged Kira tightly. You saved me. Kira smiled. You're safe now. Around them, students watched in complete silence. Nobody could understand her. Every instinct told them to run from danger. The human ran toward it. Rilthos slowly walked toward Kira. For several seconds, he couldn't find the words. Finally, he lowered his head. The proud warrior, the strongest bully in the academy, spoke quietly. I was wrong. Kira looked at him. He continued. I thought courage meant making others fear you. He looked toward the burning courtyard. You've shown me. It means protecting people who can't protect themselves. Kira remained silent for a moment. Then she extended her hand. Then help me. Rilthos looked at her hand. Without hesitation, he took it. For the first time since arriving at the academy, The human and the warrior stood side by side. Not as enemies. As teammates. Above them, the academy suddenly shook harder than ever before. The monster let out a deafening roar. Then, it smashed through the final defensive gate. Nothing now stood between the creature and the underground shelters where thousands of students were hiding. Kira's expression hardened. She looked directly at the advancing beast. Then quietly said the words that would change everything. It's hunting. And if we don't stop it, it won't stop with the academy. The monster charged. Every step shook the academy. Concrete shattered beneath its claws. The remaining defense cannons fired without stopping. Bright streams of plasma lit the sky. The creature ignored them. It had only one goal. The underground shelters. Thousands of frightened students waited below. Commander Varesh gripped his rifle. Hold the line. Dozens of soldiers rushed forward. The first wave opened fire. The monster lowered its head. Then, it slammed into the defensive formation. The impact sent armored soldiers flying through the air. Several vehicles rolled across the courtyard. Emergency alarms screamed louder than ever. One officer looked at the battlefield in disbelief. We can't stop it. Kira watched everything. Smoke drifted through the ruined academy. Students continued running toward safety. Teachers helped the injured. Medical drones filled the air. Then, Kira noticed something. The creature wasn't attacking randomly. Its eyes kept scanning the ground. Searching. She whispered. It isn't hunting food. It wants something. Rilthos heard her. What? I don't know yet. She looked toward the damaged science wing. Then toward the underground shelters. Her eyes suddenly widened. The power core. Rilthos frowned. What power core? The Academy's fusion reactor. If that explodes. He finished her sentence. The whole Academy will disappear. Inside the command center, Commander Varesh received the same report. Sir, the creature is moving directly toward the central reactor. Varesh slammed his fist onto the console. It knows exactly where it's going. Professor Sailran turned toward him. That isn't instinct. No. Varesh answered quietly. Something is controlling it. Outside, the monster smashed through another security barrier. Only one gate remained. Behind it, the reactor entrance. Kira looked around quickly, then pointed toward a damaged maintenance bridge. Rilthos. He looked at her. Can you reach that bridge? He studied the distance. Yes. I'll distract it. His eyes widened. Absolutely not. You'll be killed. Kira shook her head. I don't need long. I only need a few seconds. Before he could argue, she was already running. The monster saw her immediately. Its glowing eyes locked onto the lone human. Kira picked up a broken metal pipe. She struck it against the academy wall. Clang! The sharp sound echoed through the courtyard. The creature stopped. Then slowly turned. Every soldier watched in disbelief. The monster had ignored heavy weapons, but now, it was watching the human. Kira stood perfectly still. Calm. Focused. Just as she had faced the predators during the survival assessment. She whispered to herself. Come on. You see me. The creature roared. Then charged. Kira! Tilly screamed. Every teacher expected the worst. The distance closed rapidly. 100 meters. 80. 60. 40. 30. 20. At the last possible second, Kira sprinted sideways. The creature missed her by less than a meter. Its massive body crashed straight into the damaged support pillars beneath the maintenance bridge. Crack! The weakened structure collapsed instantly. Hundreds of tons of reinforced steel crashed onto the monster. Dust exploded across the courtyard. Silence. Then, cheers erupted. We got it. It's over. But Kira wasn't smiling. She kept watching the dust. Slowly, the enormous pile of steel began to move. The creature pushed the debris aside. It stood again. Bleeding. Angrier than ever. Commander Varesh lowered his weapon. I don't believe it. Rilthos landed beside Kira. He looked at the monster. Then at her. What now? Kira took a slow breath. Now. We stop surviving. We fight. Those words echoed through the courtyard. For the first time, every student saw something different in the quiet human. She wasn't fearless. She understood the danger completely. She simply refused to let fear decide what happened next. The monster charged again. This time, Rilthos didn't hesitate. With a powerful roar, he ran beside Kira. One human. One former bully. Running toward impossible odds. They are learning. Morvin nodded. The human changed them. Commander Varesh opened a secure communication channel. This is Commander Varesh. I am requesting immediate release of Earth's classified survival files. The AI answered instantly. Authorization denied. He entered a higher clearance. Authorization denied. Professor Sailran stepped forward. Use my credentials. The AI paused. Processing. Then, a hidden file finally opened. Across every command screen appeared a single classified document. Deathworld species, humanity. The officers read silently. Their expressions changed one by one. One whispered, impossible. Another shook his head. They evolved, there. The report continued. Average planetary gravity, significantly above galactic standard. Extreme weather events common. Predatory wildlife abundant. Frequent natural disasters. Despite these conditions, human civilization not only survived, it flourished. Commander Varesh slowly looked toward Kira. So that's why. Professor Sailran finished the sentence. They don't fear hardship. They were raised by it. Outside, the monster let out another earth-shaking roar. Kira tightened her grip on the metal pipe. Rilthos stood beside her. Behind them, hundreds of students formed a single defensive line. No one spoke. No one ran. For the first time in Academy history, every species stood together. And at the very front, the quiet girl from Earth took one step forward. Then another. Because on a death world, no one comes to save you. You become the one who saves everyone else. The final battle begins.